Yay, we're live. Hey, Sandy, everyone. It's Betty from Awakened Possibilities with Sandy Glaze. We're back with you again on our regular Friday, 11 o'clock.
Beautiful day, isn't it? Beautiful day, isn't it?
It is actually a very nice day. A little chilly, I'll be honest, but it's supposed to warm up.
And that's okay. We're on the right side of March, so that's we're in the glide path for nice weather, right?
Yep. Sorry, and you're already starting to break up a little bit. But
Am I?
so today
what
we're talking about is programming, and I think this is it's really timely. I think
it is, because we have to own our choices.
Yes.
It's hard to own your choices when you don't understand how you've been influenced by various aspects of society, families, different institutions and structures, right? So I'm going to go and take my, hang on, I'll be right back.
Sure. And so while you're gone, I am actually going to talk to you guys about one of the things I was showing Sandy this morning, just before we came on, from the 4 agreements. I remember, I don't know if you've all read it or not, but the one thing that stuck out, even when I read it way back when, I read this ages ago. The thing that always stood out to me was about the programming. At the very beginning of the book, he talks about how we've been programmed from being children. So I was like, okay, let me pull this out. And I want to read something while
which way am I going there? Just so everybody knows the book.
Settled there. And I think sharing on StreamYard, not always that straightforward. So it's just a quote from it. It's a couple paragraphs here. We didn't have the freedom to choose what language we speak. We didn't have the freedom to choose our moral values and our religion, or even the option of accepting or rejecting what others tell us. And then he goes on to talk about we take all of this information as children, and even when we're rebelling against it, we end up defending the things that we were taught. And basically it goes into calling this human domestication. We're taught as young children to live a certain dream in a certain way. We receive things from the form of advice and guidance, which then creates the entire belief system that we have. And this is how we learned to judge ourselves and others. We're trained on reward and punishment and all kinds of other things. And I think that's a really good segue, because I loved that book. I loved that book.
I haven't read it yet, but I've received
many people. And that really resonated. I remember it resonating with me at the time, going, wow, yes, I've been programmed with so much crap. And it's shedding those layers of stuff so you can actually come into yourself.
It is. And as much as I appreciate what you're saying, it doesn't talk about the adults that show up in all the different aspects of life. So of course, there's adults in your family or relatives who are older than you, whether it's extended family or siblings who are older. It doesn't go into the teachers and the education system, that also you have to go and toe the line. And when you're in a public school system or you're a young person, you have no choice but to look at the adult as the authority figure. And that's where they get their narcissism from, because they think they're right instead of listening, because children have so much information to share on a different realm, but people get it in their head that they've been learned or they've been educated. And it's the same as any institution, you know, whether education, whether the banking system, the financial system, it's no different than religions or cults, right? Respect your elders.
Absolutely.
Maybe your elders don't deserve the respect. Maybe it's time that we, as you say, undo the programming and look at things for what they are. And it's funny because we were talking earlier as well, and there's a lot of, so everybody's so screwed up over this vaccination. If you want the jab, get the jab, recycle, get off the planet, come back as a smarter person. I don't care, right? But now what's happening is they're pushing the climate change agenda. So everybody's all distracted with the vaccine. Before they were distracted with LBGT, then it was Black Lives Matter, then it was women of privilege. Now it's, you know, it's the vaccine and COVID, then the vaccine. Now it's climate change. And if you don't know how to get off those hamster wheels,
yes,
you're just feeding somebody else's agenda. And that's why it's so important we see this.
And I think that the reason that that's in the book is because it goes to an individual level. So each one of us who decide to break from our programming, ultimately, we change the cycle. So yes, you can't, and I do believe this, you're not going to change the world by trying to change that. You have to change each individual, and each individual has to want that change. So for me, not a parent, but if I was a parent and I have like broken
This
through, and I see
lifetime.
the bullshit, this lifetime, yes, because I have been a mother in past
You're
lifetimes.
totally maternal, totally maternal.
No, I've definitely been a mother in past lifetimes. I know that. It's us that can then stand up. And we talked about this last night, remember? How when the whole sex ed changed in Ontario with, what's her name, Wynne.
Kathleen Wynne, everybody's batshit crazy lesbian premier. That, oh my God, but she's a woman. We have to promote women.
My friend, but I like, no, sorry. And, you know, I look at that and, you know, and at that time I had a niece in school learning it. They were part of that first group. And I know it made them crazy. And you were telling me about all these protests and things. That was never in the news. That wasn't in the never news. Available to people to help them stand up against it. Because
there was like 5,000 people at some of those protests. And you know what? The Queen's Park, that little bitch in Kathleen Wynne, I'm going to call her that. I don't care. What they did, they had people go to the highest tower of Queen's Park and they were looking down at everybody. And we thought, oh, they're filming. They want to listen to what we have to say. That wasn't what they were doing. They were looking for conservative and liberal signs because they were going to make it a political agenda and say, oh, these are just the whoever was against them. You know what I mean? Like, this is how calculated these people are. And they have all the cards stacked in their decks. Whatever agendas they try to ram down people's throats, whatever programs they try to ram down people's throats, they've got all the cards stacked in their favor, right?
Yes, they do. And I think that's, hi, Teresa and Justin. Yes, some people don't want to face their programs, but that's what we're, you know, if you're here, more than likely you want to change them, and you realize that there's been some programming going on, and we've been programmed for millennia.
And both Justin and Teresa are well aware of the programming, and because we've talked about that too in personal time, right? But they're well aware of the programming, but people don't want to change it. And I say too bad, because they are now becoming the dangers in the middle ground, the people who don't want to change. So that's what I like about what we're going to talk about today, because we're going to give people some ideas about what programs look like on the macro and the micro. So we've got both sides of these covered, right?
Absolutely. And I just got to jump in here so I can see who we've got. All right.
So can we talk about what the difference is between a program and a pattern?
Absolutely. I just wanted to start it off with this, our domestication. I loved that word, and I forgot that it was in there. I knew you had stuff on how we were programmed from childhood. And this isn't to bash parents or anything like that. This is about
all parents. It's the macro and the micro.
It is, but they've been programmed too. Remember, this is this is pattern behavior.
Grandparents have been programmed. Great grandparents have been programmed. Tradition, what we call tradition, is a program.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really hard to break from tradition.
Depends on your motivation.
Yes.
If you want truth, it's not hard to break from tradition. If you want to keep the bullshit alive and pretend that you've got a good life because maybe you have a reasonable life, but other people don't, then it's a choice. Everything comes down to choice.
Everything comes down to choice. But it's also, there is an awakening moment when you realize that these things aren't serving you anymore. And that, yes, maybe I am running a program, and maybe you didn't think of it that way, but, you know, maybe my beliefs weren't, you know, and what I've been taught my whole life isn't true. People have those moments of like clarity. And that's who I think, you know, we're talking to, is those people who are starting to.
And it's not even a moment of clarity. Sometimes it's a moment of inquisitiveness and curiosity. And why do I feel weird every time this happens? So it doesn't mean it's going to be a broad awakening and you're going to have your aha moment. Sometimes it comes out as something very subtle. And why isn't this work for me? Why do I always feel crappy when I'm around this group of people? Why do I always feel uneasy when we talk about this subject? What doesn't land right? Why am I always thinking, when somebody says A, why am I thinking B, right? Yeah, socially engineered into being domesticated, cattle, sheep, whatever the term is, right?
Or as Scott McKay calls us, self-slaughtering sheep. I love that, actually, because that's what a lot of these people are. If you're not breaking through from these patterns and the paradigms and the belief systems, and starting to question, why do we do things the way we do them? Right.
So look at a program. So this is what I came up with. A program is created by someone who wants to shape your thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and actions. A pattern is one's conditioned response to programs. So one is, oh, we're inputting the software in you. This is the program we're running. How you respond to it is the pattern. So they want to condition your responses. Condition's the right word, so that you respond a certain way to go along with things, to never speak up, never stand up, feel shame if you go against the grain, things along that line. So I just want to make the difference between a pattern and a program. So we know a program, somebody else's bullshit that they want you to absorb. When you watch a television program, when you watch any of the animation, and we've talked about this, so animation, to create an animated film requires thousands of stills so that they can put them one after another and make it look like there's motion on the TV screen with the animation. But the animation is someone else's creation that you're absorbing when you watch their program. And then you get their beliefs. And then you pattern accordingly. Oh, this must be normal because 20 million people watched The Family Guy, and that's what they showed, and we all laughed, because the laughter even on these programs is placed strategically so that you think it's funny, which is all part of the program that you're absorbing. Yep. Right. And then what do you do about it? Oh, we have 6 genders and 58 sexual identities. Like, that one still blows my mind that we're so stupid.
Well, I didn't even hear about that till last year. I was, I guess I live in a little bit of a bubble, and it was like, I was at a friend's place, and she worked for City TV, actually, and said that there was some kind of conflict with somebody because of their gender. And I was like, what? And I don't remember what the gender was. And I was like,
let's talk about your friend. How fucking stupid is she that she actually believes it's true? Oh, because she's in the program called programming.
And I'm like,
whatever
news station. Genders. And they're like, no, there's like 60 something. I'm like,
no. That's a social construct. That's a concept. So I was reading a book recently, and they talked about cisgenders, and cisgenders are heterosexual. So why don't you call it heterosexual? Oh, you got to create a new word because you're so evolved and so intelligent and so far advanced. Like, this is all ego stroke for people who have no idea of who they are, right?
Absolutely. Like, oh yeah, because we didn't get along just fine for thousands and thousands and thousands of years with just 2 genders, which is really easy to identify. Look down.
And we don't get along.
Look down. It's really easy.
I know we don't get along as male and female because all wars make money, including domestic violence. They make money for the lawyers. They make money for the real estate industry, because now you need 2 houses for one family. Maybe you need 2 cars. You need 2 sets of furniture.
Yeah, and this is what we're programming our kids with, this new generation who doesn't have any clue. And I know there's new legislation that just came down this week, I think, from our government on sex ed and teaching kids how to identify themselves or something along those lines.
So these fuckers should be shot. The politicians are sexual abusers. They're pedophiles. Oh, we're not allowed to say that. You can screw the people over, but we wouldn't dare stand up and take a physical stance against you, because that would mean that we're lowlifes instead of cleaning some of their clocks. Do you see how we're all shamed into not using violence as a program? So when you look at what's happening, whether it's true or not, what's happening, if these indictments go down, they're going to be executing people. Are we going to be all offended by that because we want to give these people the benefit of the doubt because we've been trained to roll over and show our belly to everybody? Oh, we don't want to be violent because we're the love and the light. And it's like, no, some of these people need to be executed for the crimes against humanity for what they've done. Whether Absolutely. It's treason, and it's like, oh, but people, they're afraid to speak up because they don't know how everybody's going to take it. Too bad.
Not my problem.
We need to get rid of them. But they've done some horrible things, and nothing's going to stop them. And people don't understand.
I'm talking about the justice and how they do, and what they do is not. I mean, it's not for me to judge it. I actually
I'm not
want
judging it either, and I haven't seen it.
We don't need them.
We don't need them, right? So let's talk about programs. Programs are influences that are sent to the unconscious mind. So there's different levels of consciousness, right? But a program projects a belief system onto that alters another's perception of reality. So when somebody's running a program on you, it doesn't matter if it's MK Ultra, it doesn't matter if it's a television program, a radio program, it doesn't matter if it's an education program, a recreational program. It doesn't matter. It is designed to alter your perception of reality.
I think a really good example of that is this whole virus thing and how they have programmed us to fear one another like everyone is a walking germ.
Right. So there's a program.
That is
And
an
it's a
absolute
program that is meant to keep us all separate. And as much as I don't like that program, many of the people that I know are using it as an opportunity to go inside and strengthen their vertical channel, which is the channel with their one self, God self, creator self, higher self, source. And they're really bringing that consciousness, and they're really anchoring it into their body, because ultimately that's what we're all here to do, is understand how powerful we are.
Well,
and they want these programs.
That was the unexpected consequence. That was the unexpected consequence of it. They were expecting more along the lines of those people who were walking around with their muzzles on and crossing the street when you're walking around with your dog because, oh God, you can't walk past them. Like,
and I'm going to put it out there that may be partially true, but they also know that we're waking up. So they know what it takes for us. They're hoping to fuck us up faster than we wake up. And that's what all the muzzle and the social distancing is for. But they know that we're coming into our power. So they know we're waking up. They know that if we turn on our own innate abilities, that we can change things with our conscious mind.
And the funny thing is they're actually, well, they keep shooting themselves in the foot, because yes, the original lockdowns started that process. People staying home, starting to figure out what the hell's really going on. And now with the severity of them, and, you know, here in Ontario, as you know, now they're talking about curfews and they're talking about even stricter restrictions. It's like, really, what more are you going to do? Shut everything down? And
they are. So now it's climate change. We're going to do climate change lockdowns. So you know what? There's some women who are actually orgasmic at the thought of being suppressed and told what to do. And I went into a store one time and I said, so how's everybody handling this? This was after the first lockdown. She goes, oh, we're eagerly awaiting the second lockdown. And it's like, do you think, like, are you capable of thought? Good thing you're not manufacturing the products I'm buying, because I'd be afraid of it. You're just selling it. You're just a merchant. But she was eagerly awaiting. And you stop and you think, do you have a brain in your head that you understand how finance works, that people need to earn a living so that they can put a roof over their families' heads, they can put food on their table? It's almost like people are functionally illiterate. Like, they talk functionally illiterate. My understanding is they can't read and write. No, they don't know how life works.
Self-slaughtering sheep.
But slaughter yourself. Don't slaughter the rest of us. The rest of us know how to open the latch and walk out of the corral, right?
But they think that everybody is like them. That's the key there.
The arrogance and the ego and the sleepiness.
Yeah. Right? Yes, absolutely. And that's a total program. And that is not just the programs they've given us now. They actually feed off of earlier programs. Right?
The whole thing is designed as generational programs that the more it becomes the generation before you did it, the generation before that did it, the generation before that did it, the more it becomes the norm. Well, my mom and dad did it. Well, my grandparents did it, and their grandparents did it. Does that make it normal, or does that make it the familiarity of?
It makes it normal. It doesn't make it right. Right? What did I say? I think a few episodes ago. Just because you've done something for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 1,000 years, every generation in your family supposedly, doesn't make it right.
No. And that's what we have to.
Good thing. It means you've been doing it wrong the whole time. When are you going to decide to change? When do we flip the script?
And that's what's happening now for some people, but not everybody's going to get it. And Justin, you're right. It's all social engineering. So why are humans the only species on the planet who can't get life right? We're supposed to have the superior intellect and the superior consciousness and be able to know that we can create whatever we want. But that only leaves man in charge. When I say man, it doesn't matter if it's man or woman, but that leaves mankind in charge, instead of being able to tap in and say, there's some innate intelligences that we aren't even given thought to, or we're not even looking toward to understand, why does this work this way?
Yeah.
Right. So this is what we're losing out on, how amazing we are because of all these programs, right?
Yeah.
So let's look at it.
Oh, sorry. We're probably going to go exactly the same place, because I said, let's look at some of the programs a lot of people have, right?
Right. So do you want to do the macro or the micro programs? So when I think of like external programs, one is technology. Technology is a program called AI. We're going to break it down and look at the beliefs. I know what you're talking about, because we talked about this yesterday. Societal programs, education as programs, recreational programs, cultural programs, religious programs, cult programs, trauma programs. Trauma programs are MK Ultra and the abuses. DNA programs, behavioral modification. When you shame other people, you're putting them in a program that they start to shame themselves. People criticizing or demeaning you Get over it, folks. That's a program. If they call you to say, you know, I really don't like how you do this, or you should do this, you're shaming and you're criticizing and you're affecting somebody if they let your crap land. Brainwashing programs, black magic programs, and then abuse programs. But a lot of what you were talking about is breaking those down further, right? If you want to go ahead and take it from there.
Sure. Let me pull this up. So some of them, like things that, you know, we've been taught from the time we were children. I've got like 3 pages worth of a list of them, right?
And this is great because these are going to land with people that they're going to realize these little comments that were made to you help shape you into believing what you believe. And often it's about demeaning yourself or not standing in your power. A lot of these programs are about suppression.
You know, be worried about, you know, what the neighbors are going to think or what people are going to think.
As a child, did you think that, or did somebody tell you you have to worry about what the neighbors are going to think, right? Yeah, somebody else's thought forms projected onto you.
Yeah. And it may not even be said. It could be just, you know, we have to keep the family secrets, or, you know, we don't tell people our business. And that kind of thing. So you realize that there's energetically, you feel why, because you have to be normal, right? Behave normally. What is normal? Right?
We don't know anymore.
It's a construct. It's a construct that we created that people should fit into these lanes, right?
It's a terminology. The word normal is a terminology, but what it means is familiar. This is what's familiar, that you go into these areas that you carry on the family traditions. There's good traditions you can carry on.
Boys don't cry. You know, you got to be, you know, stiff upper lip, and things like divorce is a failure. You can't do that. Business before pleasure is another one.
I never got that one right. Long story.
Don't cause trouble. Don't let your feelings show. Never let them see you cry. Don't trust anyone. Don't talk about sex. Don't talk about, you know, I'm a sinner. I need forgiveness is a big one for, you know, the religious people. You know, that you're a sinner. You know, you need to be forgiven. You're born of sin. No, you weren't. You're born of love, hopefully.
That's what it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
And Teresa's commenting that her mother was like that. There's a lot of people who are going to realize they grew up in a situation, and often it's the women who did the suppressing and making everybody stay quiet because they didn't want to rock the boat, whether they did that to protect the child from maybe somebody else's influence or shining too bright, whether they did that out of fear of themselves that the child will outshine them. You really have to look at why you're doing it. And I had a meeting with a client this week, and her daughter showed up in the background, and I stopped talking when her daughter showed up. But anyways, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to freak her out by what I was talking about. And she came in, and it was so interesting watching this little girl just light up as we're talking about things. And she knows, and the mom's homeschooling her. And I'm like, right on. I said, and I made a comment. I said, educators are sexual retards. And this 12-year-old nodded. So she is fortunate enough. She has parents who see that there's a problem and are taking the right action to make sure that she's not getting that indoctrination. But what I told her, I said, there's a time you shine. I said, you're a beautiful girl. There's a time you shine so bright. There's a time you hold it to yourself that you don't speak up because the people around you can't handle it. But you have to decide what those times are. It's okay to do both. And she kind of looked at me, and I think she got it, right? But I'm just saying, you don't stand out in front of some people because they're threatened by you.
Yep.
But pick and choose who those people are. Don't surround yourself by those people.
Yes. Yes. And right in front of my face is like, no one likes a show off, and the show off is actually shining your light. Hopefully.
But there's a time and a place to do it.
But there's always a time to do it. But yeah, don't hide your light. No. We've been taught to hide our light because you need to be smaller.
And this is what's coming out now, hiding our light. And I can't remember if it was you and I who talked about it or someone else. So think of it as we're lighthouses, and we're on a rocky shore, and there's lots of rocks and there's lots of danger around, and the waves can come in and crashing in. The lighthouses, when it gets rough, don't pick up their skirt and the foundation and run off the rocks and go inland where it's safe. You stand there and you shine.
Yeah.
But you also know how to fend off the darkness. Because a lot of people are confusing light and darkness right now. So they're shining the light on the light. You don't need to shine the light on the light. You shine the light on the light. Sometimes you make them a target. Shine the light on the darkness.
Absolutely.
And the example I'm going to give is there's some men going around city to city in the United States talking about the corruption at various levels of government, the 3 levels, the federal, the state, and local government. And people want to support them, donate to them. But here's the thing, don't tell everybody you donated to them, because that's just your ego talking. Mm-hmm. I've lent people money before and not asked for it back, but I've said to them, there's only one condition. You don't tell anybody. This is between you and me. I don't need my ego stroke to know that I've done that. But what came up for me today was we're all taught now to, oh, look who's standing up. Look who's standing up. No, you think of how the Secret Service works. If they're protecting somebody who's speaking up or a public figure, they got their back to the people that they're protecting. They're looking at everybody else saying, hey, darkness, do you want a piece of this? Come and get it. So I really want us to
look at, go through me.
You're going to fuck with them. You're going to fuck with me. And I'll tell you, I might not be able to physically hold you back. Energetically, you'd be surprised what I can do. Oh, yeah. And there's enough of us here who are going to be the energetic bodyguards for these people. And we're going to know, because everything happens in the non-particle world before it lands in the physical world. We're going to sense who's going to do stuff, and we're going to send it back to you before you start. And we don't care what your transmission method is, if it's going to be physical, if you're going to use other people to do it, or you're going to do it electronically. We're on to you. We know how this works. We know how evil has overtaken the AI. We know how evil works through the electronics. We're here, and we're not taking your shit. You screw with them, you screw with us. Yep. And I really think it's important that we put up that energetic boundary and start understanding how darkness works. So instead of saying, oh, look at the light, you know what these people look like, you know what their message is, you can still hear them and not watch them. No different than if we're making dinner and watching a video. You're listening to the speakers, you're not watching them, right? Yep. You know who they are. So we have a chance to step up in a big way and help facilitate changes.
Absolutely. And I wanted to go through some of these because I think these are really common ones. You know, women's work is never done. It puts us into victimhood as women, right? Oh, I'm always so tired. I always have something to do. You know, everything falls on me, work, home, family, blah, blah, blah. It puts you in that hole. And it's about, I think we need to start identifying them. And that's what we wanted to talk about. So how do we identify them? How do we break free from them? And, so
sometimes you have to look at those as your own personal construct. Because I know women who have to bring everything on them. Then they say, look at all I get done. And they become martyrs to themselves.
Exactly.
So that's a program too, that I've got to be everything to everybody. So there's all kinds of programs to break down, and Betty and I aren't talking about judging anybody by saying these. These are just common programs that people fall into, that it's time we look at them and say, do they really serve a purpose for us anymore? Or is it time to leave them? And I agree, Teresa, I don't even look at royals or famous people anymore. Now that we understand what they've done, I'm not going to say they're beneath us, but they're not even our equals anymore. Some of them are so evil that there's no excuse for what they've done. And I understand that they got ahead and they had to do some of these things. So the system has to fall, so I'm not judging them. And that's the other thing, when you talk about looking up to them as gods, look at the role worship plays. Some people, I have a program that I'm working on. I don't want to say too much about it, but one of the problems that people come into when I muscle test is worship. They have to worship others because they don't feel worthy enough themselves. So I have to unhook. Where did you get the worship program? Oh, your pastor at church, you have to worship, or your teacher, or a politician, or a local business guru, or whatever. Parents can be gods. If you have an atheist family, your parents might have God syndrome, that you have to look up to them. Oh, we want to look after mother and father, and it's like, do they deserve it? Look at it.
They're often the ones teaching the religious programs too, if it's a religious family. I know you and I talked about, I didn't have a religious family. We were Catholic, and I had to go to Catholic school. They wanted us to learn it, but it's not like we went to church and stuff regularly. I went to church because of school. Right. I went more than my parents did because of my school. But thankfully, my grandmother was actually very religious and taught us the Bible. So if anything, I got at least somewhat of an education on that. And you know how I feel about it. I think most, good portion of it is garbage and has been messed around with. But there's still some gems in there.
Yeah, there is.
There's still some gems in there, and you can still pull out. And I mostly, I'll usually go to the New Testament if you want to actually get some gems. And it's all like the teachings of Jesus, because I've told you, I think that Jesus came here to break these programs, to break these paradigms, to break this stuff up. That's the light he was shining. And unfortunately, we dropped the ball after him and made him a god instead of continuing. He was supposed to pass the baton, was his expectation. And instead of him passing the baton to us to continue to shine the light on these things, we ended up he got switched around, and we worship him like a god.
So let's look at psychopathy. We made him a god. Congratulations, Jesus. But they killed him first. Like, come on, though. It's still psychopathic. They didn't make him a god when he was alive. They kill him, and now he's a god. And it's like, that's psychopathic.
Well, they made him a god.
Only the good die young. Whether it's Gandhi, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Princess Diana, Jesus, John Lennon. Only the good die young, but never of natural causes. The whole thing is psychopathic.
Oh, yeah.
Like, now we will hold them up in reverence because we can control the narrative because they're dead.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I say. Only the good die young, but never of natural causes.
Yes, fair enough. But it's all of that is the whole religious thing is manipulation. All of religion is manipulation. It doesn't mean that there isn't truth in it. It means that it's when you look at the programs that and it is a program. Religion is a program, 100%. It does take some time for those who are very into their religion to break away from that and then develop.
They're not going to.
Atheist, but actually taking another look at what that all meant and what does it really mean for you, and how do you connect to source? How do you connect to your source? How do you connect to that?
That's why they don't. It's like the not the insulation. It's like putting when you've got an extension cord and you've got the prongs. It's like putting that little plastic cap on it so you can't connect. Oh, you got to go through so and so. You got to put an adapter on there to connect.
Oh yeah, and this is the only way.
This is the only way. This is what our economy is built on.
We can save them all.
Yeah.
Really? No. And actually, I have a little rant later, but I'll talk about it after.
Okay.
But it's about religion and paradigms and Mike Lindell. He's running a little program right now.
I follow him a little bit. I don't follow him a lot, but if you want to talk about it now,
I'll say it because I was actually looking at his new platform, because you're going to be able to live stream and everything on there. And I was like, okay, well, maybe because there's really nowhere other than here in Facebook, and all of these are going to go down. And not in the not too distant future. And I'm like, okay, well, where are we going to be able to continue? And so I was looking at Frank, or Frankly, or whatever. And so there's no swearing allowed. So I got to bite my tongue a little bit. And I get the no porn. He just says porn, but there should be no child trafficking, no porn, no drug trafficking, and all that ugly stuff. But no swearing, no porn, no blasphemy. And I'm like, wait a second, wait. What I just said about religion would be considered blasphemy by somebody.
For some people, yeah.
But no, because he's very, Christian, born again, whatever. And that's a program too. And I know it helped him. It was his connection to God, but you got to kind of like see past it. And
that's okay. That's how he did it, but it doesn't mean that's the only way. And
but he wants a free speech platform, and he is not allowing people to have their own opinions of religion and God and who that is.
Right. Free speech on my terms. I had this conversation with a friend yesterday that a friend of hers wants everybody to speak up, and she doesn't go for woo-woo, and she wants everybody to speak up, providing you see things her way. And you say it her way and do everything her way on her timeline. And it's like, it's a control freak. You speak up. You want other people to speak up for you? You speak up. So we're all in this together to a certain degree, for good or bad. For good or bad, we're all in this together. But it's up to each of us to get ourselves in a position. If you want to be heard, get yourself heard. And other people may come into your life and help you, but you have to do it for yourself. If you want your message said, you don't go to somebody else and say, please say my message, because then it's not their message, it's your message. It doesn't have the same intensity and the same level of compassion and passion, because it's not your message. It's just, you're no different than the radio pundits or the TV pundits that are just pushing somebody else's agenda. And when you look at their emotion, they use mock emotion to really hit home the point. And it's just theater, right? When you look at all these programs,
because that's what you get a lot, is that Other voice. And that's, I know you wanted to touch on that with the programming in NLP, because that's part of
I was going
it.
next. Right? You look at Kathleen Wynne. She went to Harvard University, I believe, and she studied NLP. So she learned how to speak to the people to convince them of what. So politics, is that really hypnotism? A form of hypnotism and mind control, basically. But they've all learned how to do this, how to speak in such a way that they get people's attention while they get their agenda met. And it's like, I get bored easy, really, because you can start seeing through all this. And you look at all the media personalities, it said that there's 6 companies that own all the media outlets. So they all get the same scripts.
Yeah.
And so, but they might say it just a little different, but they use the same buzzwords.
Yes. Yes. And I actually, the funny thing is a number of years ago, I actually was interested in taking NLP. And then I did my homework on it. And when I realized what it was, I'm like, I'm not going in for programming people and trying to change.
And you're not that insecure that you need to program people to
exactly. I was like, this
light.
Doesn't feel right to me. But then I started to notice on television, and especially the news, here in Canada, they actually there's especially a lot of the women will have this like certain tone that they use when they're trying to convince you of something.
Totally. Look at
Dr. Davila in here in Ontario. Oh my God, she's terrible at it.
She's terrible at it.
Using NLP, and I'm like, oh my God, you need to go back to school, baby, because you ain't doing a good job at it.
And she's not going to, because she doesn't even have the heart for evil. She's just like not brain dead, but she just says she's just blah. Right. So now they're using mental health workers to assist the police to go and deal with different altercations. And they're using women this way. And there was a pastor in Alberta a Polish pastor who just said, get out, get out. And this woman, we talked about this last time, defied all of his boundaries and just tried talking with a soft voice. And we got to realize that men can be physically aggressive. Women can be passive aggressive, but they use their words because we tend to be more verbally, I'm going to say, attuned or inclined, where men tend to be doers, we tend to be talkers, right? Yeah. Neither one is better. It's just, it depends on how you apply it and how you use it, right? But we have to start realizing that women are part of the problem for this fucked up society that we're living as men are. And it really comes down to who you are as an individual, what you want to bring forth, how you want to share your message with everybody. What is your message? But when you do it without condition and without an attachment to the outcome, you're not programming anybody. You might be holding them accountable and say, own your stuff, but you're not programming them. And part of this is, for me, I'm not attached to any outcome. I don't care what the outcomes are because I'm not living with it. I'm just work with people and help facilitate while they find their own outcomes. What is the right path for them? But their bodies know this. We are all inherently wired to be able to know truth. Yes. And their bodies often know the answers. Their bodies know it. And that's what I do is help them find their answers. And sometimes it's kind of funny that when they find their answers and they think, that's not what I thought I was going to do. So Teresa's making a comment about somebody in her past is passive aggressive. Passive aggressive is a female trait. When men do it, they're in their weak feminine energy. Real man, if you're a mature man, you're going to stand up in integrity. You're going to have an identity with your values. You're going to have a moral framework that you operate within. You're not going to let anything take you out of that framework. You're going to maybe usually have a purpose. You know what you're here to do to a certain degree. And even if your purpose at this time is to provide for your family until they're a little older, then that's your purpose. Yeah. Real men don't get swayed easily. They don't play the head games of the weak feminine energy. So women can be passive aggressive. Men can be passive aggressive. You look at some of these politicians, these pussy hat politicians. They're passive aggressive. Look at O'Toole. I'm not going to defy the carbon tax. He comes out yesterday and says, I'm all for the carbon tax. That man has a bigger vagina than most women energetically. He's just a pussy.
It's true. He's just
a pussy. He's just a weak female. They all are.
They're all puppets. And Canada's always been full of puppets running our government. We are just puppets. And
look at Justin Trudeau.
It took me a long time to figure that out, and I have figured it out. And it's like,
and then you see it, right?
When you
some of the women are tough.
But I actually want to get back on track here with the because the programming, and I know.
But this is programming because the puppets are programmed too.
Yes,
everybody's programmed. You're programmed for good, you're programmed for evil, or you break off the programming and stand for truth and love and what your higher purpose is, right?
Right. And that's fair enough. And we're getting it. We're being bombarded right now.
Totally.
I don't know that I've ever seen so much programming going on in the world, like from everywhere. It's so obvious that even my husband said, who was like, thought, that this was a thing, finally went, you know what? It's like every 5 minutes, it's the same thing over and over and over again. It's like they're trying to brainwash us.
They are brainwashing people.
And but once you're aware that this is like, wait a second, something isn't right, because it's too incessant. It's too in your face. It's too much. It's like, who are you trying to convince of what?
Anybody who will listen. You call it spray and pray. You say it loud enough. You say it enough times. You don't care who gets it, because they're assuming the masses are going to listen to them. Mm-hmm. The masses aren't going to be what breaks free from all this programming, though. It's going to be the individuals who choose they want something better in life. They want their autonomy. They want their sovereignty. They want to be able to speak up and know they have the right to live their life full of happiness, with a chance to be able to, I'm not going to say accumulate more, but to be able to improve their life, their livelihood, improve their, not their station in life, but improve their ability to do more things. Mm-hmm. Like, this is what it's all about. And some people want it and some people don't. And this is what we don't realize. Not everybody's out there wanting to kill it for a corporation.
No.
Some people want to enjoy staying home and raising their children, but there's another program that women are suppressed. The women who want to stay home with their children are suppressed, instead of saying, hey, good for you. It's fantastic that you want to raise your children. And that job isn't
valued by our society.
And it's not valued. And, some people kick my ass out there because I make a comment that anybody who's raising children, if one of the parents want to stay home, they shouldn't have to pay income tax. And then somebody else loses their mind because they don't think that's fair. And it's like, are you considering what's best for these children, even though they're not your children? Are you considering what's best for future generations, even though you are not physically their mother? It doesn't matter if you're a mother this lifetime or not. You're not their mother. You're not their father. But you can still say we need to set up the economic system that is beneficial for everybody to raise their children, be at home if that's what they want to do. Maybe they want to be out in nature. Maybe they want to homeschool. Let them do that.
Absolutely. And I want to give people, like, what I would like people to do. So anybody listening, I know we've talked about a ton of different kinds of programs, and we're getting it from everywhere. And we have our entire lives from the moment we were born. Is start looking, and I actually would say start journaling and start thinking of what programs you might be running. And those are going to be the things that are actually like, you'll feel a rub. There'll be trigger points and different things. And, some of the things that I brought up, and there's tons more. Like I said, there were 3 pages just individually lined up that I put down there. And these are just really common ones. And start looking at them. And when you identify that you're running a program, that's almost half the battle, is realizing. And that's what
depends on your beliefs.
Fair enough. But we're talking about somebody who, yes,
some
of them you're going to need help to remove them and maybe, either.
And you're going to lose people in your life. And I know people
release. We have to figure out how to release them. But first thing, because I know early on, before I was into any of this stuff, realizing the program, I didn't even put a label on it. It's just like, oh, well, why am I continuing doing this? It's like, because this is what I was taught. I sat down and go, do I really believe that's the way things should be? No.
You're talking with people who want to change. You're right, because a lot of people don't. They'll know they're not going to give up their family, because if they realize their religion is a ruse, they're not going to give up that. They're not giving up their family because they'll go along with the religion and put up with it and suffer in silence.
Fair
Do you know what? You talk about programs. We can stack programs. This is something you and I could work on together. We can stack programs. We could put a whole list of programs, prioritize them, let the client bring it into their consciousness and release it. There's no reason why we can't do that not on a massive scale, because sometimes if you go too fast, the people can't handle the shift in their vibration all in 1 hour or one sitting.
Yes, because I have had clients who, you kind of feel a little wonky the next couple of days, and because you just took out too much, but it's like. And
I tell them that too, but call me and we'll do a mini clearing and just get you back on balance, right? Yeah. But you're right, you take out too much. You got to do this in a not in a structured way, but you have to do this in a way you gauge everybody's reaction. You can see who's getting really high and can't handle the information or the change in energy. So then you slow down and say, okay, that's enough for one day, right?
Yeah, but part of it, and I, if anybody is looking at, because you can do it on your own too, but sometimes you need help, and if you need help, then there's people like Sandy and I and many other people out there.
Many others, yeah.
But it's identifying and starting to identify them is actually half the battle. It really
it's interesting. Just another thing I put together, because yesterday I just sat down and just started writing about programs, right? Programs come with expectations from others. They want you to behave a certain way.
Yep.
That's not the way we're meant to be on this beautiful planet of ours. We're meant to live inspired, inspire ourselves, to lead ourselves to do what feels right for us. So that's what the big difference is. That's what we're meant to do all along, is live inspired by your own inner workings, whatever that is, whether it's that morality and the boundaries and the values and what have you, right? But that's how we're meant to live, and that's why the programs need to come off, because it's always somebody else's expectation. Black magic is a program.
Yes.
That the scrying mirrors, the TVs, the computers, they're all programs designed to get you to watch their visual aid, which is your computer screen, which you can see I'm looking at you now, but I'm looking at the computer screen. Then they're projecting their image onto you. So when you look at what Betty and I are saying, we're saying get rid of all that. Yes, we're going to use this medium right now because that's what we have, but we're using it. We're in charge. We're keeping our awareness higher than what it's sending to us. Yes. And we're going to create our own reality based on our own inspiration. So I love how you're talking about all this, Betty, because this is why these programs need to come off.
They do. And what they do, and this is why it's so important to get rid of them, is when you have all these programs that are blocking you from living that inspired life, it is also blocking you from doing the thing that you came here to do. Yes. It is layers of shit, which I would get blocked on Frank if I said this.
We're going to have a chat with that guy.
I'm really pretty pissed, actually. It's like, you know what? Free speech isn't in your box because you just stuck free speech in a box.
Yeah.
I get the things that are illegal, but it's not illegal to actually have an opinion
and to question everything. Yours. Yeah.
It's not, that's not okay. So, Mike Lindell, unlikely you are ever going to see this, but in case you do not put people in a box, in your box.
You're no different than anybody else then.
I respect everything he's been doing. I'm excited about my store. I'm excited about everything he's doing, but you are not, that is what you're doing in your website, in this swearing and blasphemy and what you think is okay, not okay. The illegal stuff, the evil stuff, yes, but people are allowed to have differing opinions, and you're just creating a different
kind of funny because he's allowing the darkness, but not the, yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
I want to be free.
We are free.
I want to be free, and I am.
We are free, and we're not following
what box I need to be in, because
I know.
Sorry, I just spent the last year breaking out of the last few boxes. I probably still have a couple more, but I have no. I don't care who thinks I'm crazy. I don't care that I'm not normal. I'm actually happy and proud not to be the normal ones walking around scared to death.
Again, that's just a word. Normal's a construct.
I know, but I get that. What you mean. But what people out there, then, right. People like you and me, and then the people who are watching this, because you guys are part of this too. I can see it from your comments. Yes. Those of us who are here in this, we're the ones looking for truth and a way forward. We are the ones who are going to make the change.
Yes.
In this reality, we're the ones who are going to make the change. And we get to, lots of people out there talking truth about what's going on in the world, and those things are important too, but we're not going to get there unless we align, clear the shit, align spiritually to where we come from, and figure out our path.
Yes.
Period. Sorry, that's my soapbox.
You know what? It's not a soapbox. This is the way forward. We don't care. And it's the point. You have free speech. We all have free speech. We don't care who gets it and who doesn't. If you're an asshat, we're going to know. We're going to know by your lack of morality, because now we're going to redefine what it means to be a good human being. That includes morality. That includes understanding and identifying with your values. That includes clearing out your emotional stuff. So you know what I came up with earlier about pain. So sometimes when you're clearing out programs and making changes, it can be painful. Yep. But I was thinking about pain. pain, and I was thinking about the word betrayal. Betrayal has been coming up a lot with clients, with myself, and a few different people that I've been talking to.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at pain, when does the pain hit? Does it hit? So think about all the darkness in the world right now. Does the pain hit when they're actually doing the crimes against other people? Or does the pain happen when you find out about it? The pain registers when your awareness is brought to the event that was harmful. So let's say somebody stepped out on you. I'm just going to use that as an example, right? But the pain didn't happen then for you if you didn't know. The pain happens when you find out. So now we're finding out this is when the pain is going to come, but the event that caused the pain already happened. What pain is more important, past pain, present pain, or future pain? So when we look at this, there's going to be more pain in the future, but can you hold your space and hold your center as you feel the pain and you realize the darkness that's coming to the light, or the light that's going to the darkness and saying, hey, dude, this gig's up. It doesn't matter which way you do it, right? But when we start to realize pain is another one of those programs that we run, that life isn't meant to hurt. Life isn't meant to be abusive. We're not meant to take other people's crap. We're not meant to impose our crap on other people. We've all crossed both sides of that, but not necessarily in the same degrees. But what is pain? What are we going to do when we start feeling the pain, and the pain when it all comes to light, just that we've been living against ourselves? Why I'm saying this, as my understanding is, they just did another bombing in Iraq. You think the Iraqi people haven't had enough of USA's shit that they come in and kill them? Who dreamt that up? Who says, oh, we create our reality? There's nobody in Iraq that created that dream to be bombed, or Syria or Libya or any of those countries. That was somebody's dark dream in the United States, or a group of them that empowered their dream to inflict pain and suffering on somebody else so that they have a material gain, right? We start looking at all this, we can see 100%. It with different eyes.
That's that whole new age thing. That's that whole new age where you bring in all the negative in the world just because you thought it, or, you know, whatever. And I was like, bullshit. It's like there's no evil because all negative things come from your own consciousness. I like bullshit. I call bullshit on all of it. And, you know, it's all about this feel good, mushy gushy stuff. Well, you know what? Life doesn't always feel good. And sometimes you need to not feel good and see the evil so you can actually identify,
make the changes,
and make the choices, because we have free will. And this is where, well, maybe that's another show. I'll leave that for another show. Free will.
So I'm going to talk about people's obsession with this vaccination, and I want to talk about caring for others and having compassion for humanity. So I was talking to somebody recently, and she's saying that somebody, either she knows or somebody she knows who knows someone whose partner got the jab. So let's say it was the husband's upset, the wife got the jab. It doesn't matter if the wife's upset, the husband got the jab, because that person, all they could think about was themselves. This person's getting the jab, and what's going to happen? I'm going to be alone. This is the problem we're in. You keep getting, when I say you, I don't mean you. I mean, and I don't mean you to the viewers. I mean the collective us. When we can't see the plight of humanity on all its levels and all the different forms of abuse that happen, you're nothing but the narcissist who last week you only cared about whether it was COVID, or you cared about Black Lives Matter, or you cared about whatever's in your life. That's all you care about. If you can't say, okay, I care about the people who are being bombed in other countries. I care about the people who are being trafficked. I care about the people who are being experimented on. I care about the people who are being stolen by these corporations and stuck in underground bunkers from the national parks. I care about the people who are being hurt by the medical system. I can care about all of that and speak up against tyranny for what it is, tyranny itself. I can still put myself first majority of the time because that's my job. That's my responsibility. I can still see the pain and suffering for the rest of the world. But with all this vaccine shit, all anybody cares about is themselves. Oh, I don't want you to get it because I don't want something to happen to you. And it's like, if that person chooses to get it, love them now, hope for the best for them, respect their decision. Who says they're wrong and you're right? You say you don't want to get it. That's not how they see it. What makes your views more important than their views? Love everybody. Do the best you can. But understand the pain in this planet needs to be brought all across all platforms, needs to be brought up to the light so we can see it, hold space for the people, and say this shit ends.
Yes. Right? And I mean, that goes into a lot of that whole, like, being so caught up in everything that's going on in the world instead of, you know, and yes, we do need to know. And I'm always checking to, you know, and well, not always. I've really stepped a huge, the last couple of months. I peek in. I want to know what's going on, but that's not my major concern. Focus. It's all about greasing myself up, because you know what, as I do, then I can actually bring those, you know, because when I shine, the light comes in, people will be drawn to it, and then we can actually all collectively we actually shine a bright. Other people with the same light are attracted.
And I agree with you 100%.
And then we become that beacon of light for everyone else. But I can't stop my neighbor from getting the jab. I can't stop
or whoever
anybody in my family from getting the jab. I can't stop anybody from doing anything. I can give them information, and then they choose.
And they might say, I want you to get the job, and I want to give you the information so you get it and you can choose. So if we want to give them the information, we have to be open to them giving us the information. And my favorite line always, well, not my favorite line, one of my favorite lines always comes down to stay in your lane, make the best decision for yourself, mind your own business. If you have people that you are entrusted to care for, children or seniors, then you have to get the information to make the best decision that you can live it yourself when you're done.
Yeah.
So when I talk about what's going on globally, I can do both. I can look at what's going on and bring up my own consciousness, my own awareness. I can help people one-on-one. And I can also look in the collective. And why I look in the collective, I look at all the policy changes that have come out in the last 2 months. We're back at war. Transgender bathrooms are open again. The children are being hauled over the border and being sent to different cities, which AKA are being trafficked. I can look at the macro and say, I can see all these policies that are willingly being put into place that put people in harm's way, because we have to see it on the macro and the micro. But you know what, I came up with 2 things, but one of them is obstacles that hinder us breaking free from patterns and programs, control issues of others, greed, poor boundaries, lack of knowing who we are. So this ties into what you and I stand for too,
Absolutely.
right? Lack of wanting to express ourselves in the best possible way. What does it mean to be a good human being without applying somebody else's program, religion, education, a professional standard, scarcity mindset, low self-worth, internalizing negative self-beliefs? All these stop us from breaking free from programs, insecurities, self-centeredness, unclaimed karmic skills not called up from past lives. So everybody's so busy watching what's going on. Have you ever gone in and said to your one self, God self, higher self, source, please show me, please help me, show me my skills that I mastered in past lives that I can use in this life? Well, we're so busy looking at what's going on the ground level, we're forgetting how magnificent we are and how to call our collective energy home for us to elevate.
Absolutely. And as we do that, this is really important, because we're being disappointed, like people around us, our family, our friends and stuff. But I think we're at that place where we're actually, as we work on ourselves and we actually harness that light, we actually bring ourselves to that higher place that we're supposed to be, we find our soul family. Yes. We find our tribe, the people that we're supposed to be with. Maybe not everyone in our actual family excuse me, is supposed to be with us forever.
On this part of the journey, right? And I agree with that. And we're finding this out, right? Part of that could be a program, which I'm not 100% convinced, because children need the support and the love of a solid foundation around them, a structure of a family, which is a mother and a father, so they can learn how to be the best they can be and keep them safe, right?
Absolutely. But as adults, and I'm talking about, you know, us who get to make that choice, you know, my family, they're all adults.
Yeah, they're adults. You know, they can make their own choices. I can actually
now see what relationships work, which ones don't. People who are on a completely different wavelength.
And they all for the physical wealth, and they all for the physical plane. Let them be, but it doesn't mean that's where you are.
Yeah, that's not where I am. We're not resonating at the same frequency. It's not working, and I'm not going to force it.
You can't. That's just a program.
It is a program. So at that point, it's just healthy just to walk away.
Do you know what? You can walk away or not. And here's another thing. It's not a matter of one way or another. So I know people who are getting this and they work in the industry, and I found out they're working around this topic, around the vaccines. And I'm like, I still want to see you. I love you. And maybe something bad will happen. I'm hoping it doesn't. But in the meantime, I'm going to go and have a good time with this person because I miss them. I love them. I want to be with them. There's enough other things to talk about. It doesn't mean that person is capable of talking on the level that I am, or even wants to, because that would go out of their paradigm. But I can still love them, but I'm not going to have a relationship with that person that I see them 20 hours a week, because it would never work. But once in a while, we can still touch base and say, hey, I love you. I miss you.
Absolutely. But You know, and there'll be different variations of that, but people need to know it's okay to just maybe, you know, emotionally you let go of the expectation of what the relationship you wanted it to be.
And that is a really good point. I want to talk about that. So Betty's got Teresa's got a comment here that she heard that vax people will give it to us. I think they're trying every which way to keep us all divided. And I've heard that a vaxxed male can sterilize a vaxxed female. They do not want us having organic sex. So unless you're in a long-term committed relationship, you should be wearing a condom and protecting yourself anyways. So that would take care of that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, shedding does happen. That is like, it can happen. I mean, the only thing I've seen is.
But how long is it going to shed? Are you going to shed for the rest of your life? Are you going to shed for a week? Like whatever the illness that they put in there?
A week or two. You know, I know, well, it depends on the drug and stuff and how it's administered and stuff like that. But a couple weeks. The big thing is the mothers who are getting it and then breastfeeding. You know, I've heard reports about adverse reactions to that.
And they have to make up their mind about what they're going to do. We can't tell the moms how to mom. We can say, we love you. We support you. We hope that you look at things on a broader scale and really understand how you influence what goes on with your child, even emotionally. If you're a wreck and you're breastfeeding, those emotions are going through that child.
Absolutely.
Even if, you know, so there's many fronts on that, right? So Justin says, super cool idea regarding bringing back your karmic abilities. And I'm going to say, for the spiritual people out here, you know who you are. And think about what you can do when you talk about moving clouds and moving chemtrails and all kinds of things. This is just the beginning of understanding who we are and how powerful we are. And when we bring these ideas on and these abilities from past lives, the idea is we still do it with integrity. And I know I've talked to Justin about this, about if we move the chemtrails, where are we going to move them? Because we can't dump them in somebody else's backyard. So do we dissolve them? Do we find a better way? Do we need more information?
Dissolve them.
Right?
Or actually transmute them. They can be transmuted. That
and do the same thing.
Go from something negative to something positive.
When we know how to bring all this together, we are unstoppable. This is why they don't want they want a social distancing. This is why they want us afraid of each other. Some of these energies are coming in on the planet on their own, in my opinion. That's what I'm sensing. I feel it coming in different waves. We're waking up, but while they're sitting here and go vaccines, Black Lives Matter, whatever the political bullshit is and all that nonsense.
Distractions.
Distractions is all it is. So the programming
over here, not over here.
Right? Yeah. And that's always, and I learned that maybe 10 years ago. Whenever somebody says, look here, you don't look 45 degrees to the right or 240 degrees to the left. You look exactly 180 degrees behind you because it's always in your back. It's always behind you, so you're not even close to seeing it unless you turn right around. And that's the inversion, right? We're waking up to all this, and that's fantastic. I'm so excited about that. And even though I'm not happy about a lot of things I'm seeing out there, I'm also seeing a lot of good things out there. And the idea, I was going to say, the idea,
you know, there is a tipping point too, and we're going to see the dog, and I can feel we're really close.
I know
people are waking up a lot faster right now.
And they are going to need for the ones who want a hand, they're going to need guide rails. So they're not going to get somebody to do it for you. And I'm not offering it to do it for anyone. I will show them how to do it for themselves. Because if you do it, then you're just creating more hierarchy and more dysfunction, right? Absolutely. But when people are looking for the guide rails, they're going to be looking for information, and they're going to want to hear people who can articulate what it is they need to know, why they need to know it. And I'm going to give an example. Sometimes, this is a while ago, I was working with a client in particular, and she had a friend, and I was working with a friend to bring her soul back in. Well, this client wanted her soul back in. I go, you're not ready. You got to work on your emotional stuff and feel more. She goes, I'm paying for this session. I want my soul brought back in. And I'm like, it doesn't work that way. So even the people who do understand the process and that it's different for everybody and timing is different, you stay true to yourself. Somebody tries to tell you how this has to be done or what they expect to get from you. That's not how this works. You work with somebody to help you figure out what you need to know, because maybe there's an emotional block in there. And when that's gone, then you can work on your soul work, right?
Yeah.
Crazy stuff. Can I want to say this, just because when you talk about not focusing so much on the outside, and there's no right or wrong, and I know you're doing a lot of inner work right now, and there's times I have done a lot of inner work, then I go out and look around and go, nope, it's still crazy out here, and then go back and do the inner work. This is something that's helped me, because sometimes I can see the light, and I can see the dark, and I can see the polarities. Learn how to hold the tension of opposites, of those things that don't immediately go together within your being, without collapsing into confusion, judgment, or denial. There is passion and serenity, creation and destruction, which we're seeing now, new life and death emerging, which we're seeing now, within you and within your relationships and within all that is. Stay balanced and centered in the pairs of opposites of life. This helps you go deeper within yourself and strengthens your connection to source, because as you go with the elastic band of life, if you can stay centered, this is going to strengthen your core. Don't be washed away in the duality of life, but observe it as you move through it. Breathe and simply be. Today, choose. Choose what you want to choose today as you work through this and strengthen your own spiritual muscle.
Absolutely. 100%. That was beautiful. And yes, when you are aligned and you have that, that's actually, it's where you gain your strength. It's where the more centered and the more connected you are, the less wobble you have on what's going on the outside world. And that's what I have seen, when I was, when this first happened, it was like a deep dive into everything. It was pretty intense, and for the first few months.
Not that we're not intense now.
It's intense, but I'm not finding it that intense.
Overwhelming. I'm
not finding it intense or overwhelming. I'm on top of what's going on around the world, and Iran and Russia and China, and
we don't know if that's just a psyop.
But I'm taking it and I'm like, okay, process that. All right. And honestly, sometimes I'm just sitting back going, all right, this brings us one step closer. We're one step closer. Instead of being afraid of it, it's like, it's an excitement that we're getting there. We're almost there. Yes, it's going to be, it's going to be scary for some people, but I'm like, yeah, bring it on.
And it's going to be scary for people in different positions. So I'm going to use an example. So we might be confident and say, yeah, we're ready for all this because we have a roof over our head. Somebody who's living in a tented city, and I'm hearing there's more tented cities coming up even in my community. Yeah. They might be terrified if they've got a small family and can't protect their like the zipper entrance to the front door. So it's different for everybody, but it doesn't matter where you are. The idea is that you go through it on your own. And I agree with you. People have to make up their own mind on how they feel about all this, but it's about how they strengthen themselves. And when we collectively can send our energy in whatever capacity, wanting the best outcome for all people involved, and send it and start projecting good things. Like I said, I think we can clean up the skies, clean up the waterways. People have so many great ideas that they share with me that I never even thought of.
Oh, yeah.
And I appreciate all of that.
Out there. Brilliant people out there that have different skills. And that's the thing. You don't have to be doing, what you do or what I do or what somebody else does. And,
no right or wrong.
Everybody has this beautiful talent, and we're all important when we bring our talent to the forefront, what we came here to do. And that's why removing these programs are so important. And first thing I want everybody to do is start identifying them.
Yes.
Make a list, because that's your first thing. A lot of this you may be able to do all on your own when you start to recognize them. And as you start to recognize them and start to deprogram yourself, more will pop up. It's going to be an interesting list. Now,
but know what you're aiming for
with it, then you have people like Sandy and I and many other healers out there, that people who do energy clearing and stuff like that can help you, that help facilitate it, walk you through the process. But a lot of it you can do on your own.
Yes. But don't crown chakra first and dive into this and not know what you're going to be diving into, because it's going to hurt, right? But the idea with all the clearing of programs, what's the purpose of clearing it? So that you can get back to clarity in your original blueprint, as you're saying, Betty, what we're here to do. But we can't see the innocence of who we are because we've been through so much or had programs and crap thrown at us. So we didn't understand why it was done to us or why we participated in things we shouldn't have done. But when you start to understand that, that's what the whole goal is to bring you back to your original blueprint of your dynamic, innate, organic human self with your own conscious connection to all that is, was, and never will be. And this is why it's so important to understand how magnificent we are. So
yeah, we're incredible. And when we get rid of those programs, we actually realize that they're not doing anything good for us. They're holding us back from our divinity. And I told you guys before, we're all amazing. There is like this beautiful like light that shines in all of us, and we need to clear the clutter so it can actually see, it can come out. That's it. That's all we're talking about is let's clear the clutter, and programs is part of it. There's emotions, there's all kinds of other things. There's lots of layers. But if you can start chipping away a little at a time, each of those layers, more light starts to bubble up.
It does. And you know what? Because I put a section here together about removing negative patterns. You want to clear all your abuse experiences and elevate your vibration. Abuse is something that happened to you. It's not who you are. Doesn't matter if it was verbal, emotional, mental, spiritual, sexual, physical. It doesn't matter. It's something that happened to you, but you can clear it. And that helps elevate your vibration. If you have energy blocks, as Betty's saying, find a facilitator, somebody who can help you clear it until you can do it on your own. Cut cords with toxic people. Sometimes it's enough to walk away. And sometimes when you walk away, they've got like, it's like they could throw this net or something and this hook and bring you back energetically. And that's not what we want to experience, right? Sometimes you have to clear them totally. Make part of your daily routine to be self-aware. Ask me, show me what I need to know today in a way that I can handle it, in a way that delights my mind, body, and soul. Be enthusiastic about what you're going to be learning and bringing in. Learn to work with energy. Learn how to shield your energy. And learn ways to remove psychic attack.
Protection. When you're doing all this work, you need protection. Because as soon as you let one thing go, they'll want to slip another one in. But you want to guard yourself, make sure it can relieve, but nothing new can come in, and fill it up with light or love or joy or peace, wisdom. This is what I'm doing. Actually, I'm like, as I'm releasing stuff, I'm pulling like all of the beauty of the divine realms in. Yes. And it doesn't have to always be love. It doesn't have to always be light. It can be peace, joy, hope, wisdom, hope, generosity. Yeah. It's like, I'm actually pulling in, because you get stuck in a rut. Oh, I just fill it with light. No. Hold on a second. I'm going to pull in other beautiful aspects of the divine realms because I want to be full of all of it, not one piece of it. And I think that's actually something new I have been doing.
And you know what's fantastic? It's fantastic that you're saying it that way. And this is what almost has to happen first. People need to know how to put up their shield. And if it takes a week, a month to practice doing that before you go in and start releasing your program so you can feel when something's moving. I love what you just said about all of those, bringing all those different aspects of ourself in. How many ways are you beautiful? Write down all the words of how beautiful you are and what you want to experience. And stay out of the new age bullshit of the light and the love, like you said. But what do you want to experience? I want to experience incredible courage to stand up and actually be the change we want to see. I'm not experiencing it, but I can bring in more. But all those things, right?
And then you bring in the people that are like you. Like I said, your soul family. You will find them. And
you will find them. And you will know what bullshit you're not putting up with. Like people who want to find your weakness. So what causes you pain? Anybody wants to find what you're vulnerable in right off the bat?
What causes me pain is people who ask me what causes me pain.
Exactly. Put your shield up. Shields up, right?
Shut up.
So we're going to go a few more. Love yourself. Practice positive self-talk. Tell yourself what is absolutely amazing about you and say it with such conviction that nobody would doubt. Practice saying it in the mirror if that's what you need to do. What do you like, respect, and love about yourself? What are you proud about yourself? Get curious about the nature of life and love. Find the beauty in what you're learning about yourself. Be a wise soul seeking to know yourself and raise your standards to what you will and will not accept from others, because it's going to become a bit of a shit show as the bifurcation continues, right? Commit to rising above the matrix, which is programmed to control the heart, mind, and soul of humanity, including each and every one of us. That's what it's designed for. Some of us are above it. Some of us can go underneath it and hang out with the 3Ds and do what we have to do here and then pop back up. It doesn't stay very flexible. Take back your sovereignty and your right to pursue life, freedom, and happiness, and stop asking others for permission to do what makes your heart sing.
I know. And it made me think of something before we go, because we should go. We're just over an hour.
Yeah, I want to
do you have this scale? I have one on my desktop, but again, with StreamYard, it's not always easy to share. You know, the energetic scale?
This one?
Yep. Zoom it in a bit closer. Let me see. Can I make this big? I can't. All right. Just down. I don't want I want the top ones. I want the good ones. All right.
There's no good or bad.
We're talking about, love is the lowest of the good ones. Like you want to hit 500 as a minimum. Joy, peace, enlightenment. There's also wisdom,
There's a lot of different
There's a
ones
lot of them
on
that
this.
actually fall above there. That those are the ones that you don't just bring in love. They're so much higher than love, and you want to start. And it dawned on me one day, you know, in meditation, that it's like, why are you just bringing down love? Why aren't you bringing down things that are even higher? And it's like, you're right. I need to fill spaces with even higher vibrations, because that actually takes you to new levels. And it's been incredible. I mean, I really actually sometimes feel like I'm like almost hovering air, you know, shot, like literally I can almost.
And you're going to be able to teleport by bringing all that in at some point. I'm not sure that we're all ready. Just to be clear, though, there's no good or bad emotions. I want to make sure that it doesn't matter where you are. I had a client one time came in and she told me she's feeling so peaceful. And I said, measure your energy. I think she came in at 630 and peace is 600. I was very analytical that day when I'm working on getting something on paper so I can put it and structure it in a book or something to be published. And I was at reason. I was at 420. And I was like, yeah, that's my ability to reason and put this together. There's also on this, there's the emotional views, there's a psychological view, there's a world view and a God view on all of these different levels. Yeah. So it's okay to feel all these different perspectives. The idea is that you do feel, you bring in the energy in, actually, right? I
do have those in, I don't know where my thing is. I have it here somewhere, that same scale printed out in color. My printer's black and white because I was going to print it out, but I'm like, well, there's no point when it's black and white.
So no, it's not.
But yes, you're absolutely right, because I'm not like floating up all the time. Like, believe me, I'm like a human. I'm like, we crash.
You know what you're aiming for.
Feel lower, but when you
know what you're aiming for.
You know what you're aiming for, and you notice when you dip. And then, yes, you know, sometimes you have to feel what's going on. Why am I feeling this way? What happened?
And you're going to feel grief going forward.
Come back up. But yes, yeah, it's okay. It's going to be a roller coaster ride. That's the duality of this level we're on, right?
There's so much more you and I can talk about this, about the spirituality stuff, but it's too much for today, right? But this has been really good.
So much. But I really do want people, like, because we do tend to pull in like love and light. And it's like, okay, love and light is
just a program,
but there's so much more we can, when we're clearing stuff out. And even with clients, like, yeah, let's clear that stuff out. I'm not going to bring in just love or fill it with light. I'm going to bring in peace. I'm going to bring in joy. What did we just remove? Did we remove fear? Maybe I need to bring in joy. Maybe I need to bring in peace. Maybe I need to bring in wisdom. Maybe we're removing a program that made you feel less than. I need to bring down wisdom. So now you actually have that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I usually do meditations when I finish up with a client. You know, they'll clear something out and then we'll do unconditional love or trust in creator, or a physical one that gets rid of all the caca in your body, the energetic stagnant stuff. So usually I finish with something and then have the client feel, what does it feel like? What are you feeling right now? That's the frequency. When you can feel the vibration, you're feeling the joy, you're feeling the love. It's about feeling it. And I know you're incredible at feeling. I'm not saying, I appreciate the words you're saying, but you bring it in, but you feel what it feels like. It's through the feeling of the emotions.
Yes.
That we're going up.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And we all have this in us. So
we all have this in us.
Like we all have that within us. And so don't ever feel like, oh no, well, you know, I can't bring down wisdom. I can't bring down this. It's like, oh, hell yeah. You can. These are our gifts. These are our gifts.
Hell yeah.
This is
what would kick you off for that alone.
Gave us. They are our gifts. It's our inheritance. It's what we're supposed to have. We were brainwashed into believing we didn't deserve them.
And that other people, we had to turn to other people to get these back. And it's not, we are the ones we're waiting for, all of us. Thank you, everybody who's been chatting and talking to us. And know that we are all in this to be the change we want to see. We're not all here for good. We know that. I don't want to contradict, but we know the ones who are here. We have it all. And the confidence to say we have it all. I love how you just said that, Teresa.
Yep. All right. I think this is a good place at almost 20 past. So we will next Friday, 11 o'clock. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye. Take care, Betty.